Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat, episode 32. We're back. It's been 2 weeks. I think our spring breaks did not align, so we had midterm stuff going on separate weeks, so it was rough. But we're back. We got a lot to talk about. Joining me is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
And I'm Zach Owens. So, should we just dive in? Because it's a busy...
It's
going to be a big
show.
Week. This might be a long one, which I'm okay with. But so, why don't you lead into what happened today?
Zach, there were rumblings for a long time, and they were saying that Google was getting in the video game. And then, like a month ago, they were like, hey, come to GDC, we're going to have a keynote. And sure enough, GDC is happening, and they did a keynote, and they announced Stadia, which was basically what we did, that stream test. Project Stream was a beta test for that.
Yeah.
But it's their cloud gaming initiative, and they're using their servers, and they're using their insane infrastructure because they're Google. And it's all just like the data center is the console now, basically, I think is the talking point. Yeah. And you don't need their specific controller, although they do have a specific Stadia controller that comes in,
You need it if you want to play on Chromecast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can use a regular, whatever controller you have lying around for PC, but if you want to play on Chromecast, and it looked like when they played on the phone, they had something like a Moga controller.
Yeah.
So, but you would probably want to play on a Chromecast, and I think a lot of people would, because that's sort of the most close to like regular console gaming. So in that case, you'd probably want a Stadia controller, but that's so much less expensive than buying like a whole new console.
Yeah, so just to as an overview for the whole thing, this is basically, they didn't say it was a subscription service or if it was just like a storefront.
Kotaku did an interview with Phil Harrison, who's like what is he? He's like the vice president or something like that of Google. He used to work for Microsoft and Sony on like Xbox and PlayStation stuff. And in that interview, they asked him about price, like whether they were going to have to buy games individually or if there was going to be some sort of subscription service. And he said they're not talking about that right now. They specifically avoided it because they're not ready to discuss it just yet, but they're going to talk about it over the summer. And so then they pressed him on whether that meant that they were going to be at E3, and they were not willing to commit to that. So they're saying they'll talk about it over the summer, but no time frame on when that's actually going to happen.
You think we're definitely going to hear something at I.O., wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility.
That's usually like a week or two before E3.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's pretty close to E3, so maybe that is when they do it. Otherwise, Sony left a vacancy for them to just step right up. So.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point.
One or the other.
But yeah, this is basically... The thing I think that was most striking to me was them talking about like, well, you're watching a YouTube video, and someone is playing a game, and then a link pops up where it just says like, play this game, and you click the link, and then within 5 seconds the game is fully ready to go. No downloading at all. You're in the game basically. And if it's someone who's streaming, this opens the doors for a new kind of battle royale where someone is like, hey, I'm going to stream this battle royale, click this link and automatically be loaded into our private game.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many streams I've watched where people have had to come up with their own solution for like, have my viewers join my session so that we can play games together. This is going to streamline that so much easier for streamers. And that's why I think this is going to be sort of a major selling point for YouTube as a streaming platform over Twitch.
Which is crazy to say, because I definitely don't. I watch Twitch way more right now.
Oh, for sure. I think everybody does. Like, YouTube gaming was like a thing for a little while, but I think they kind of low-key just sort of got rid of it and made it just all YouTube. So, like, if you watch a live stream of somebody playing a game, it's just happening on regular YouTube. You don't have to go to, like, some YouTube gaming thing to get to it, but...
The promise of this technology, there's just, like, endless ways. Since they own the entire pipeline, they can do things like they were showing, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool... in squad games, if you could automatically see your team's viewpoints? We can do that because it's just a separate instance. It's all on our data center. which to my mind said like, oh, this would be great for VR because it's like hardware intensive to be rendering two different perspectives for two different lenses. But if this cuts down on that, especially with like 5G, this could be a great mobile VR thing.
That's true. And they do have their own mobile or like VR platform already that they can sort of build into. That's sort of the cool thing about Google is they have so many like different resources and platforms that supposedly could all tie together. Google's not always great at doing that, but like they have the capability. And so the idea of using it, so it was unclear to me what it was going to look like to sort of launch Stadia or like a game in Stadia, because it seemed like you were talking about, you will watch a trailer and then at the end a little card will pop up and say play on Stadia. You click the button, 5 seconds later you're off and playing the game. Like, it's obviously in the browser. It's just not clear to me whether it's sort of part of YouTube or if it's like a separate sort of web app type of a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you ever download anything is the question. Like, definitely you'll need a phone app.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure how they handle the phone app part, but they were very adamant that you will not download anything ever for this, and that like Stadia, the name itself is just sort of the plural of stadium, which is like a place people go to play or watch games. And so the fact that this is sort of integrated into YouTube is sort of a completion of that naming convention as sort of a concept of a place where you go and either play the game or watch a game being played. And of course, they were also touting that as you play a game, you can sort of instantly stream it to YouTube at no like loss in quality. Yeah, because
nothing is local. So like it's just another pipe from the data center, basically. Yeah. It's not affecting your latency at all.
Yeah, exactly. And they said that the same with like split screen co-op. Like there will be no hit to performance if you're playing in split screen, which is pretty cool.
That is super cool. That was that like other perspective. Another thing I thought was cool. So the controller we touched on a little bit. It looks like a nice controller. A crazy thing about it is it's not connecting to whatever device it can detect whatever device you're playing your thing on. Like they did a thing where they went down the line of like, it's playing on a laptop. Now it's a computer. Now it's a phone. Now it's a Chromecast. And it'll auto-detect what you're trying to play it on. But also, it's not connecting to the device you're playing it on. It's connecting via Wi-Fi directly
to it. Yeah,
exactly, which is very cool, I think.
Yeah, that is very cool. And will definitely cut down on like latency. So yeah, it's connecting directly to the server that's running the game and not any of your like hardware that you're playing it on or whatever. So yeah, that is really cool. And like Digital Foundry put up a video about all the like sort of nitty gritty details of this that I should link to in our show notes in case you're curious about that stuff. Because they did say that it's capable of running games at up to 4K 60 frames a second. I think right now that's all very dependent on like your bandwidth and your internet connection speed. And they also said in that Kotaku interview that I was listening to that like 1080p 60 frames a second is like I believe it's the 25 megabits per second to be able to do that is sort of like what they're approximating is the requirement. But they did say that the improvements they've made on this technology from the time that we tried it on Project Stream has made it so that they can now up that to 4K and only increase the bandwidth to about 30 megabits per second.
That's great. And they said like, oh yeah, and we have it in the cards to go up to like 8K.
Yeah, 8K and 120 plus.
So a question I had, and I don't know if this has been answered, but they were like, this is running on a Chromecast Ultra. That's all. But I only have regular Chromecasts. I wonder if I can still get like 1080p streams.
Yeah, it was unclear to me. They didn't really say, well, if you just want to play this in 1080p, if you have like an older TV, you can still play this on your old Chromecast. That was not expressly stated whether that was true or not. They also didn't mention like NVIDIA Shield's Android TV set-top box, so unclear whether it's going to be playable on that. You would think it would be, but who can say?
We were talking earlier when it was happening about like the limiting factor is internet now, and I was telling you like, oh yeah, I play Apex Legends on PC and PS4, and it looks better on my PS4 because my PC is super old. I generally run things at like all the lowest settings, and like Doom Eternal is a launch. I think they said it's a launch title. It'll definitely be compatible with Stadia. And I was wondering, like, I wonder if I'll get this on Stadia instead of my computer, because it might look better on my computer playing on Stadia.
Yeah, I like you brought that up. We were texting a little bit about the conference after they finished it up, and I was like, well, now you don't even need to buy a new PC or upgrade. You can just like start buying games through Stadia or just subscribe to the service, whatever it ends up being. And yeah, that's like, a huge thing.
You don't need like a GTX like 1080 or whatever, like NVIDIA graphics cards anymore. You just need like a good monitor and a good internet connection.
Yeah, which I think that's where it's gonna, like, the rubber will meet the road for a lot of people is the idea of having strong, stable internet to be able to do this. Because like when we did the Project Stream beta, and hopefully it'll run better than it did during that. And it didn't run bad during that. It's just that my internet's not usually strong enough to support that for very long. So I did run into issues where the resolution would dip pretty badly at times, to the point where I did eventually start thinking I would much rather just download this and play this on my computer rather than trying to stream it. And so maybe it's just that the infrastructure and the internet quality isn't quite there for a lot of people in more like rural areas. Yeah. So that could be like a few years out before this becomes like a major deal for everyone in that case. But it'll still be like, there'll be competition there. Like people will still, there are a lot of people who still love like physical hardware, which is another thing. So like you've got this, the fight between like the physical hardware where people will always want to download it and play on their physical machine because they get a more consistent experience with it. But then you also have the people who just prefer physical media to digital media because they feel like they have ownership over what they buy in that case. And it's also easier to preserve in that case. So like a big concern about streaming services like this is, say Google shuts down Stadia like 5-10 years later, is all the exclusive games that were on that platform, did they just disappear after that? Like, because there are a lot of people that are very concerned about like preservation of like gaming history.
That's a good point. Yeah, if there's no physical local copies of things, they can just completely erase it off of the face of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. So if they like create a bunch of exclusive games for Stadia, where the only place you can get them and play them is on Stadia, and then Stadia eventually goes away, what happens to those games?
It's a good question, because also, like, I forget who was tweeting about it, but somebody was like, this is going to hit GameStop really hard, because you won't be able to sell back games anymore. Yeah,
this could be the thing that ultimately kills off the buy-sell trade of, like, games.
Something else, switching topics slightly, they talked about save states, which I thought was really interesting, or they called it something else. But basically it's, you can save an exact configuration and then tweet a link to that exact state share, yeah. So like, let's say you're playing, a bad example would be like Oblivion, and you have a character and you have all these crazy items and you've gotten yourself into a crazy situation. You can state share that and tweet it out and be like, check this out. And then someone just clicks that link in Twitter or whatever, and they're automatically in your saved state, like your Oblivion character and like all the things that are about to happen to you, or like in a racing game or things like that. But that was a cool implementation of that. And also they talked about that Google Assistant that's baked into the controller, where you can just talk to it and be like, the example they gave, it was a level in Tomb Raider, and they were like, hey Google, how do I solve this tomb? And then it popped up with like a walkthrough of the exact thing they were doing, and it was like seamless. Yeah, that's very cool to me. I'm super into that idea where you don't have to leave the game you're playing in order to look up a guide to it
and it just sort of handles all of that process in the background, where it not just pulls up the walkthrough that you're looking for itself. It actually skips forward to the exact moment that you are in the game to help you like figure out how to get through it. It's just sort of cutting out the middleman, I guess.
Another thing about multiplayer is they've talked about how currently, even if things have dedicated servers, you're sort of at the mercy of the person with the lowest ping. That is not really the case with this, because everything is a server, so everything has like souped up, kind of like personalized, dedicated servers almost.
Yeah.
And they also talked about how that, because you don't have anything, there's nothing to manipulate on your own computer, so there's no way to hack the game or like install aimbots or anything.
Yeah, because it's running off of their server and nothing's happening like client side. So yeah, they were talking about battle royales and the context of that they could bump that up from like 100 people playing in a battle royale today to like 1,000 players playing tomorrow.
Which is crazy.
That is insanity. And
they said they were supporting all forms of crossplay.
Yeah, which is also awesome. And people were like, well, will they get Sony on board? But I don't know if that's even necessarily what they mean by that. It might just be like whether you're playing this on Chromecast or PC or your phone.
That's the other thing. Like, I don't know if they will have specific lobbies for different things. Like, I don't want to play on my phone against someone who's playing on their PC if we're playing like a competitive shooter, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it is basically the same, it's the same server, it's probably going to be the same controller, but they could be playing on PC. It's definitely the same game. Yeah. It's the same, exactly. It's the exact same game. There's no way to differentiate. I mean, they'll know, but I don't want to be dropped into a thing where someone has an advantage just because they're playing on PC.
Yeah, you don't want to play Apex Legends on your phone against somebody who's playing on PC.
That would be crazy.
You'd be at a disadvantage for sure. But yeah, a lot of the stuff we're talking about, how you can have so many people on there, is also like a huge boon to developers who are now not constrained to like the physical limitations of what can fit on a Blu-ray. They have, however much space that Google can offer with like their servers, to where developers can essentially ship a game that would have been, way too big to fit on a Blu-ray now, which essentially will get to the point where
this is the start of the metaverse, Zach.
Yeah, it's the freeing of hardware entirely. So like, we're not gonna have to buy whatever the next gen console is, because that's all on Google's end. If they need to upgrade stuff to make it so that the games start looking better, as normally they would get better and better, and then eventually they would sort of outgrow the hardware that's available, like on the market. And so they would have to, make a new one, or people would have to buy the next graphics card or whatever for their computer. Like, you're going to be free from that, because that's all going to be on Google's end to sort of maintain this as a service. And so the console generation will essentially go away if this sort of becomes the standard for what gaming is in the future. Here's something else.
When I bought Red Dead, you downloaded Red Dead, but I wanted to buy it because I wanted the map that came with it.
Yeah.
But with this, like the first thing that happened when I plugged in Red Dead was, I have to wait an hour and a half to download a patch, and then I can start playing, which is always the case.
I had to wait even longer than that to download it in the first place.
Yeah, but that's not an issue. Like, it will always be patched. You're never going to have to load up. Like, so many times, like, I open up Steam. I don't always have Steam running. So whenever I open it up, invariably, there's going to be like, these like 5 games need to download and install patches.
There's so many times when we've tried to play together a game like Destiny or PUBG or something like that, and we're like, well, we got to wait for my download to finish so I can update it. That PUBG's you won't have to deal with that.
Because if you don't have Steam open, there's just like, they're always adding stuff to the game. There's always like a 1.8.
That is the game I've run into that the most with.
Plus, I have like 3 instances of PUBG on my computer, because I have like the test server and then like the other experimental server, and all of them are constantly updating.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be another huge boon for this as a service, is just like never having to deal with making sure that you have the latest update downloaded, and you're not going to have to like when a game releases, you know, it's like a midnight release or whatever, you're not going to wait in line at a store, but also you're not going to come back and wait for an update. You're not going to have to wait for your console to download it. You're not going to have to worry about whether the developers have made it like preload, you know, a day in advance or whatever. You're just going to log on and play like right away. And that will also make it so that load times are significantly reduced. Like that Digital Foundry video that I referenced earlier showed like a comparison between loading Assassin's Creed Odyssey on like Project Stream versus loading it on an Xbox. And it was like 6 seconds and the game was loaded in Project Stream versus like 20 some seconds on an Xbox loading the exact same moment.
Yeah, in the presentation they showed this like kind of, I felt it was a little vague number, but like it said the PS4 is capable of like 6.4 teraflops and the Xbox is capable of like 7 teraflops or something. Project Stream is capable of like 10.2 teraflops or something crazy like that, like almost double.
Yeah. It's crazy how much power they have, and that the cool thing about that is it's going to make it so that at least on our end, a lot of the stuff that we used to have to deal with, we're just not going to have to worry about as much. Which kind of makes me want to play Anthem through Google's Stadia, just because a big like pain in the neck for a lot of people about Anthem is the number of loading screens. If they can like reduce those so significantly, like suddenly that's not an issue anymore.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how many games are going to be available on Stadia, because we know id is all in and we know Ubisoft is all in. But I wonder if other studios, like I wonder if Bethesda is going to be like, because Bethesda and id are basically similar. I wonder if like the next Elder Scrolls is going to be available on Stadia. I don't know about EA, because isn't EA trying to make their own thing?
Yeah, that's a good point. They do have their own.
Like what about Cyberpunk? You know?
Yeah. So Kotaku also was when they were doing that interview with Phil Harrison, did bring up like the fact that they know that Google's been talking for a long time with developers like all over the world. And he basically said, yeah, we've been talking to people like developers big and small, you know, AAA, indie games all over the world, some that you would be surprised about and some that you wouldn't necessarily be surprised about. And whether that translates into like existing games coming to Stadia or like games that are nearing release will also launch on Stadia, or like just exclusive games. A lot of that we're still in wait and see mode. We don't really know for sure. But they will have first party games and like second party, like indie games that will be exclusive to Stadia, which is going to be important for competition, because we know Microsoft is also working on like xCloud. And we know that they also are building up their lineup of exclusive developers to make stuff exclusively for Microsoft's platform. I mean,
yeah, they definitely have the most impressive E3 press conference, and this all has had a year to cook under the covers. And so I anticipate their E3 press conference this year is going to be banging.
Well, yeah, it will be that. But also, like, there's still, the rumor there is still that there's going to be 2 consoles, like physical boxes that you will buy. Mm-hmm. And one will probably be like a standard home console with a disc drive, and one will be more of like a set-top box that you'll just like stream stuff on. And so the question is, how well will it compete with Stadia? Like, if Stadia is still like a thing that you can just open your browser and start playing within 5 seconds, and
or your phone,
you know, the really impressive thing that they did, I think you already mentioned, was where they had that sort of live demo where a guy walked over and was on a computer, started playing, and then he like moved over and picked up exactly where he left off on a phone, and then paused that, put it down, and went over to like a Chromecast and picked up a controller and picked up exactly where he left off there. Mm-hmm. And like so on and so forth, down to like a tablet and everything. That's very, very impressive stuff. And it didn't matter what the hardware was that he was playing on. Is that going to be the case for xCloud? We don't know.
I don't know, man. And because they're also probably going to push like Mixer, which I've never seen a single frame of the program Mixer.
I've seen Mixer. Mixer is like a lesser known version of Twitch. It's just a streaming service.
Is it a site or is it a thing you download?
It's a site that is also a streaming service, sort of akin to YouTube gaming or Twitch. It's just not as popular because not as many people know about it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's built into Xbox, so you can like stream stuff from there. There might be a download, like, because Twitch has a download that you can do as well, but I think you can just, like, go in your browser and watch stuff on Mixer. But the thing is, Mixer's not as big as YouTube. So if you're sort of lining up to put these two into perspective and see how they sort of compete against each other, Google Stadia has YouTube they're working with, Microsoft has Mixer, and then from there it becomes where can you access these? With Stadia, it seems like anywhere, other than like we were speculating whether it'll show up on Switch, because that might be a big boon for Microsoft, the fact that they are starting to partner with Nintendo on stuff.
Yeah.
But then also the exclusive games. So like what games are exclusive to what platform? Are you able to buy them individually, or do you have to subscribe to a service? Because if I can just like go onto YouTube, just like I can with movies, and purchase like one game or even rent one for a little while, that's going to sort of free up this whole idea of like being locked into a particular ecosystem that we have now. Whereas, like, it was the console wars. Like, are you going to buy a PlayStation, or are you going to buy an Xbox? Mm-hmm. These are the exclusives there. One way or another, you're locking yourself into that console if you buy it.
What do you think, if this is a subscription, what do you think it'll cost?
Good question. It's going to have to be competitive, and Google's kind of gotten out in front of everybody. Well, I guess Microsoft has Game Pass, that's what it's called. Yeah, Game Pass, where it's like $10 a month, but you do have to download the games. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious if they can do something like that, where it's just like a $10, or it might be like $10 to $15 somewhere.
Do you think
in
it's
there.
a subscription, or do you think it's like a storefront, like basically the Google Play Store, where it's like, you know, rent this for $5.99 for 48 hours, or buy it full price?
I've thought about it both ways. I don't know, because I do think Game Pass is super compelling, just because you pay $10 and you can play literally anything in the lineup for like as long as you want. But I also kind of like the idea of not having to pay a regular subscription fee and just like pay for what I want and move on. But
I wonder if they know, if they're actually still trying to decide.
It could be, because they were very unwilling to bring it up. They wanted to move on from that question as soon as it was asked. So.
Well, it's been almost exactly 30 minutes since we started recording. Should we move on to the next story?
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah, that was the first story. The second one is about Nintendo.
Yeah, so when like the speculation was like, oh, what is the Nintendo NX going to be or whatever, and every people were like drawing pictures of what they thought it was going to be, and there were like patents floating around. One of the patents was basically a Google Cardboard-esque type thing, and now they're basically showing that off. It's a Labo, it's a cardboard kit you can buy, but it is something you put on your face, and it's a VR kit for Nintendo.
How interested are you in this?
I am not super interested. Labo, I think, is cool for children, and it's like a cool thing to build, and it's like a fun activity. And VR is also very cool to me and close to my heart, but I don't ever see using this. I could see this being like mind-blowing to someone who's like 5, but I don't think it's for me as an adult.
The cool thing about Google Cardboard as just a concept was it wasn't an expensive VR headset. It was like, pay $15 and they'll ship you this like cardboard thing that you can, with some instructions on how to like fold everything. And then we've got this app that's got like a handful of like sort of proof of concept things, or they were like, stuff that would be good for like the classroom. Like, let's have all of our kids try this with their device, and then we'll go on a virtual tour of like some museum in some foreign country, and in that way you have access to like educational things that you would never have otherwise. I don't know that same use case extends to the Nintendo Switch, especially once the full set starts charging you $80.
Oof.
Which is the announcement was that the full pack for like Nintendo Labo VR Kit will cost $80. But that does include like software and goggles. And then there's like a smaller kit that's like $40. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still waiting for them to like make some impressive like updates to VR stuff before I really jump like in with both feet on that. And this is definitely not that. So
Castle Crashers is a game I have never played, Zach.
You should. It's great. Actually, we should do a blind spotting on that game. I would have to figure out how to get to it. I do think the only copy I have on it is on my 360, which I think is around here somewhere, but
it was originally on Newgrounds, right?
No, I don't think so. I think it was originally an Xbox Live Arcade game. Like, you remember when they had those Summer of Arcade things?
Yeah.
It was one of those. At least I think. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure that it was originally an Xbox Live Arcade exclusive. And it was like, it got a lot of really good reviews. I ended up playing it, and I loved it. It was a really good game, and you could play it in co-op. It was just like a old-fashioned side-scrolling beat-em-up type of a game. And the music was great. I liked the art style. It was like, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. And it's kind of an RPG because you like level up and you get more abilities, and it's sort of a hack and slash type of a thing. But yeah, so a remaster of that game is coming out on PS4 and Switch, and probably Xbox. I actually should double check that, but
Do you think you'll rebuy it for Switch?
Yeah, I probably will, just because this is the type of game that's like perfect for Switch, and I liked this game a lot. So if I do buy it, we should definitely do a video on it, because I think it's a really good game that I think you would enjoy quite a bit, actually.
For sure. Skipping ahead for a second, something else that I have played a number of times is Hyper Light Drifter. I had it on PC and I beat it, and then it came out on PS4 and I bought it again and beat it again, and then recently I played it again on PC and beat it again. Heart Machine Games is the name of the company that makes it, and they're great. And that was their first game, and it was great. They just announced their next game, which is called Solar Ash Kingdom. And I don't know if it said what consoles it's coming to. For all we know, it's coming to Stadia. But it looks beautiful. It looks almost like a 3D version. Like, what's it called? Hyper Light Drifter was like 8-bit or 16-bit or whatever. And this is like fully like Unity 3D beautiful. It still has like a great aesthetic and great music, which is what Hyper Light Drifter was known for. Great aesthetic and great music. And it looks really cool. I'm not really sure what it's about.
Very similar art style.
Similar art style, except now it's like basically in Unity. And you're like a person, you have a laser sword just like in Hyper Light Drifter, but I think you also have like, it almost seems like you're on roller skates. It looks very cool, and I don't even know if it's like third person or a side scroller or like what's going on.
Yeah, but there's not enough from the trailer to really make a call on what type of a game it is. The only thing it actually shows is it's kind of like, you know, that Alto's adventure, it's like sort of a downhill ski type of thing. Mm-hmm. It looks a little bit like that, where you're sort of like skating through like the clouds or whatever, and you go down, and the character sort of jumps up, and there's like some sort of monster there, and it sort of looks at it as it's sort of slow motion flying through the air, and then it like cuts to end credits or whatever.
I hope it is not just a side scroller. Like I feel like a great part of Hyper Light Drifter was the exploration elements, and I hate to be locked in. I mean, I guess they could do like a Metroidvania type thing.
No.
Also, I'm watching this, and it seems like it is just going to be exclusive to the Epic Game Store.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The last thing it shows is Epic Game Store, so It may be, at least for a while, exclusive to that, because I know Hyper Light Drifter started out as like a Steam. It was only on PC, and then it eventually started expanding to consoles.
It just came out for Switch. I should rebuy it and play it again. But that's something to keep an eye out for. Maybe we'll see some more at E3 or PAX or something. But Apex Legends is something else we've been playing recently. And they finally released the Battle Pass, Zach.
They did. How much is it?
Oh, I didn't look. I think it's like $10. It's whatever. It's like 950 Apex coins.
Oh,
or
right.
whatever.
Yeah, you got to buy the in-game currency.
And there's another tier where you can just like have the first 25 levels unlocked for you. And people are like so on the Battle Pass because it like the skins they announced are not super interesting. I think people have been kind of spoiled on crazy skins by Overwatch, and these are basically just like slightly different. And there's like some slightly different game badges and like banners and whatnot.
Isn't there a new hero as well?
There's a new legend, and his name is Octane, and he seems pretty cool. His passive is that he can constantly regain health. Every 2 seconds, he gains 1 health back, and his tactical ability is he can use a stim, which makes him go 30% faster, and I think like reduces his like knockback or whatever. Like some guns do knockback, so you can like buzz around with him. And his ultimate is a launch pad. You throw down basically a little circle, and people can like jump off of it and like do crazy tricks not do crazy tricks, but they can like jump in the air, which has a bunch of interesting things. Like I saw a thing where an Octane, like his teammate was on like a high ridge, and he was on a building, and there was like no way for them to get close to each other, and then they got downed. So Octane threw a jump pad down below them, and the downed person was able to jump on that and get up to him, and he was able to revive him. But like it's a bunch of crazy things you can do with it. They released like a little 59-second teaser vid of him doing crazy stuff with it, but it's pretty cool. I think it's 12,000 credits to unlock him. So you're still gonna have to like earn some points and be able to unlock him, but
I haven't played enough on any one platform yet to unlock both of the other characters that you had to buy. So I haven't tried out both of those guys yet, but I don't know. Are you thinking about getting the season pass?
I don't know. If you can have the new legend without it, I'm thinking I probably won't get it because the skins are not super interesting to me, and I don't know that it's worth it.
Yeah, but, and the other aspect of it is, will you have enough time to like play through all 100 levels in order to get all the stuff point. Anyway? And I know that I will not. So
neither will I. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I haven't even like logged in and looked at it at all. But
I mean, I've been meaning to play more. I've just been too busy lately, so I haven't been able to. But this is for people who play this game a ton, and I don't know. I don't know what the general consensus is on whether this is worth the money or not. But I mean, you can always just keep playing for free. So
exactly, yeah, it's not going to affect the game at all if you don't have the Battle Pass.
Yeah, especially if you can get that new hero without having bought the Battle Pass. I'm not sure. It's not exclusive to that, right?
I actually don't know. Maybe the season is like all incorporating, and it's incorporating the Battle Pass and the new legend. So I think it's likely that you don't need the Battle Pass for Octane. Anyway, do you play Halo? Or did you play Halo back in the day, Zach?
I played Halo 2 and 3 and Halo Reach. I didn't play the first one, and I didn't play anything after that.
I played a ton of Halo 1 and 2 when I was in high school because we would have big LAN parties at my friend's house, and we would just like do 4v4. So I have very fond memories of Halo 1 and 2. I played 3, kind of came out when I was first starting college, so I didn't play a ton of that online. But they're releasing the Halo Master Chief Collection on PC, finally. It's never been on PC before.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal that, Halo has been sort of the last holdout as far as Microsoft exclusives go that had just not ever been released on PC for some reason. Like, Microsoft's whole thing has been parity between PC and Xbox. So like if they're going to release an exclusive game, you're going to be able to get it whether you are a PC player or an Xbox player. And they do this, like, I forget what it's called. It's something where if you buy it in one place, you can play it on both, I think.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that. I can't remember what that's called.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but it's a cool idea. It just, as an alternate perspective, it also has made it so that I have never felt the need to buy an Xbox because I have a PC, which I'm sure people do. Microsoft doesn't care because they still get your money because you're buying the game either way and you're playing on one of their systems. So, but yeah, this is cool for people who are like PC gamers who've just never played the Halo games, or maybe they played them previously, but they've switched over to PC and now they can finally play them with mouse and keyboard.
Man, I would love to go back to Blood Gulch, or what do they call it in Halo 2?
No, I don't remember.
Coagulation.
Well, so the big deal is that like this as a product package is like a really, really good deal. It's what, like $50? I don't even think it's $60.
I don't know the pricing of it. Yeah.
Even if it is 60, like you're getting, how many games is that? Like Halo 1, 2, 3, and Halo Reach. That's 4 games.
4 full games.
And I think...
all with multiplayer.
Yeah, with multiplayer. And I think the servers are active. So, I mean, you can still go back and play all of these things. So
they're going to be super active when it launches on Steam.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that was the other cool thing, is that it was on Steam. It's not like exclusive to the Windows Store or whatever.
Yeah, how great is that? Like, I would never have even entertained the idea of playing this. It was because I don't even know how to get into the Windows Store on my Windows 10 computer.
I mean, I think it's fairly simple, but I never use it, so I have never actually looked through it. I know where it is. Like, I can see the icon on my screen right now, but I never click it.
You know what this is? This is gearing up for E3 when we're finally going to get to see Halo Infinite.
That's true. And will it be a part of some sort of xCloud and the next, like, Xbox 2?
Will it be open world? Will it be Destiny, basically?
Will it be Destiny Halo?
I don't know, man. I'm very interested to see.
It is cool, and we could both play it potentially streaming.
I mean, good point. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, if they have like a client for PC, because they're going to have the 2 boxes, and I wonder if they're going to say basically like Microsoft Store on Windows 10 doesn't exist anymore. It's all one store. It's all Xbox Live. Because you're going to get Xbox Live on Switch, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we won't even play it on PC. We'll just play it on Switch.
Man, that would be crazy.
Well, and that would make sense. Like right now, it's weird because like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, those apps, as far as like video streaming services, are pretty ubiquitous. Like you can get them everywhere. The difference here is that when it comes to gaming, you're starting to compete with the console that they're available on, you know what I mean? So, but it's cool that like you're gonna be able to like get Xbox Live on Nintendo Switch, whatever that means, whatever that entails. But like, will you be able to stream Halo on your Switch or even Stadia? We don't know.
I don't know.
Excited. I think E3 is going to be huge this year.
It's going to be great. Even though Sony has decided to not show up, hopefully they will do something anyway. Like, I can't imagine they're going to stay silent during like the biggest 3 days in gaming. They've got to do something.
It is crazy. And I mean, it does seem like E3 just as a concept is going away.
No.
Just because so many companies are finding that it's so much easier. It costs so much less money to like rent out a big theater and put on this huge display and like have all these booths. Instead, they can do what Nintendo does and just like have a very controlled video that they've crafted and shows only what they want it to.
I will say I would love for live demos of people playing games on stage to disappear.
Yeah, I would be okay with those going away.
You know, Bethesda just announced their the date and time of their E3 press conference.
Did they?
June 9th.
Oh, man. That's very cool. I hope we see about the next Elder Scrolls and Starfield.
Definitely Starfield.
And I hope that they announce that it's going to be on Stadia.
God, wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah, and that maybe even though it's not necessarily coming directly to the Switch, that you'll be able to play Stadia on Switch or even Xbox Live.
Oh, I should say, this is not, we won't be able to cover this, but tomorrow, as we're recording this, there's going to be a Nindies stream of a bunch of more indie games coming out for Switch. So look out for that. Today, I guess.
Today, it has already come out, so go ahead and watch that.
Watch that.
Watch that. I'll send out a link on Twitter or something like that. So follow us on Twitter at Starside Cafe.
And on Instagram.
Yeah, if I get around to posting on Instagram.
Do you think we'll eventually follow us on Stadia and we'll just start tweeting out game states?
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, that was another cool thing to circle all the way back to Stadia. They were talking about like that thing that you brought up, the game state. You'll be able to like basically send a link. That was like their whole thing. Like right now, it's super convenient to be like, I watched a video. I want to send this video to somebody. So I'm going to send them a link and they'll be able to watch it. And on YouTube, you can even select like a start point on a YouTube video and send that to somebody just as a link. It's something as simple as a URL, you know? And so they wanted to be able to do that with video games as well. And so now you can do that with Game State. You're like, this is where I was at in the game. I saw this really cool thing. This is how much like stuff I had in my inventory, and it was like a big challenge. And you just watched me streaming this live on YouTube. Now see if you can do it. So I'm going to send you this link and everybody can just like try it for themselves.
It's very exciting
Super
times.
cool.
We should briefly touch on Destiny, which I'm going to venture a guess and say that neither of us have played a single second of this.
Not a single second.
We both own it.
Yeah, we both own it. We could both be playing it right now, but yeah, we've not. I don't think either of us have played Destiny in probably a couple months now.
Yeah, the season of the Drifter has begun.
Yeah, so it started what, last week or was it the week before? Or maybe that was
2 weeks
just
ago.
the next season, but yeah, so this one is actually interesting. I feel bad about it because
I also
like
feel bad.
The most interesting thing that they've done in Destiny.
There's actually
in
like
a
player
long
choice
time.
now.
Yeah, it's supposed to be significant enough where it has like story repercussions and it will affect things going forward. So they
brought Thorn back, which I have always wanted to get back.
They did bring back Thorn. I hear it's a very long, grindy thing in order to get it, which I guess makes sense because it was that previously as well. But
yeah.
But there's new like Gambit Prime stuff. Is that an entirely new thing altogether? A new mode?
Yes. There was originally Gambit, but now there's Gambit Prime, which is like Gambit on steroids, basically. And it's all tied to this, like, I forget what the other thing is called. I think it's called, like, Invitation of the Nine or something. But basically, it's this loop where you're playing Gambit to get maybe tokens. We are not equipped to talk about this. But you're playing Gambit in order to do this thing, this challenge. And when you do the challenge, you get stuff that increases your ability to play Gambit. So it's this loop where you're going back and forth and getting better at each thing.
Well, and the other thing is, like, I need to look up a video to see the differences depending on what side you choose. So, like, the choice that you're going to make is at some point in the story or whatever it is that you're doing, you will either choose to side with the Drifter or you'll choose to side with the Vanguard. And from what I understand, I know very little about this, so, you know, whatever. But if you choose to side with a Vanguard, you'll get like certain boons for like doing strikes and stuff like that, like any Vanguard activity basically. And there's like unlocks and like weekly things that you'll be given when you log in at reset, depending on which side you've chosen. And if you choose the Drifter, you'll get stuff like, you know, the Drifter's gear, and you'll get like boons for doing Gambit stuff. So I don't know if they make their story justifications or if this is really more about choose which activities you prefer playing and what gear set you'd rather have. So I would need to play it to get a sense of whether I care more about the story relevance of you know, having chosen one side over the other. But just thinking about what is possible to get from the Drifter versus what's possible to get gear-wise from the Vanguard, I'm sure they've added new stuff since we last played, but I would probably have chosen siding with the Drifter just because when we did play, all the stuff I got from the Drifter I thought was way cooler and better.
He had that hand cannon. Truth?
Yeah, that Truth hand cannon and the pulse rifle that he had were really, really good. So if I get more stuff like that, I would much rather have side with the Drifter. But yeah, I haven't seen if they've added new stuff to that loot pool. So
remains to be seen. Destiny, it seems like it's in a good place. Unfortunately, Apex Legends and a bunch of other stuff are happening. So, and we're in school, so it's kind of been a hard time to get some time to play Destiny.
Also, Xur is back to being interesting because like the new exotics from that came with Forsaken are now showing up in his inventory.
Finally.
So yeah, it's been a long time coming for that, but so people are like, Destiny, like you said, is finally in like the best place it's been maybe ever. And
maybe.
Neither of us have been able to play any of it just because we've had so much else going on.
Well, it's not going to get any easier, Zach. Tell me about Pokemon Sword and Shield. We took some time off, so we didn't get to talk about it.
Yeah, I was excited to talk about this because Nintendo, 2 weeks ago now, we're not very on the ball about this, but we wanted to talk about it a little bit just because it's a fun conversation and there's some interesting stuff about the new Pokemon. It's called Sword and Shield. And it's got the Gen 8 starters were revealed in that, Nintendo Direct that happened. Which one would you choose? And choose very carefully because choosing your starter is a hill to die on, apparently. This is very important stuff if you're a Pokemon player.
I don't know. So I read some speculation that Grookey, the monkey, is possibly a portmanteau of groove and monkey. And he's banging that stick, so it's possible that he evolves into like a crazy drummer, which I'm interested in.
The speculation is, that he's a groovy monkey, and it'll tie into like the whole like Beatles sort of UK music thing, and
I'm interested in that.
Like maybe even there's a new type of Pokemon that is like sound type or something like that. I don't know how any of that would work. The other two starters are Scorbunny, who is a fire type rabbit, and then there's Sobble, who was that chameleon?
Yeah, he has like he can like become invisible a little bit. Yeah, but he's like a water.
Yeah, he's a water type. So I would probably pick Sobble just because I typically either start as a fire type or a water type, and I don't think the fire rabbit looks all that interesting to me. It's like a pretty standard rabbit.
I agree.
So I'd probably pick Sobble. Was that who you would pick as well?
I might go with Grookey.
I don't love grass types, but I do like the design of Grookey, so I can see that. Grookey is kind of more like, he's like a monkey, but he's got like grassy hair that's sort of tied up and there's like a stick holding it up, and then I guess he can take that out and bang on the ground or something.
In real life, out of the three of these, I think I'd most like to own a monkey.
That's fair. Although I do think chameleons are kind of adorable and hilarious looking, so I definitely don't care about the rabbit that just has like tape on its nose, and that's like its one distinguishing feature.
I heard speculation about him being a soccer player.
Yeah, so they were speculating that because he has tape on his nose and on his feet, and he's kind of like running around, that maybe he like soccer, or at least something equivalent to that, like the whole idea of like the stadium and the jerseys and the like soccer field, except that instead of it being soccer, it's just like Pokemon battles. And so like obviously the UK is known for their love of football, as they call it. So it would make sense if they try to tie in some sort of theming around that. And it's possible that the design for Scorbunny could be that. Also, I guess score kind of sounds like scoring a goal, even though I know supposed to be like Scorch, but you know.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, Grookey could be grass monkey, but it could also be groove monkey, you know?
That's true. Sobble I can't figure out, but it's the one that sounds the least like just smashing two things together in the standard Pokemon naming convention. But so let's talk about the map. The Galar region, is that what it's called?
I've heard Galar.
Galar? That probably
like
is how you say it. There's like, it looks like maybe Big Ben is on the map, and this looks very sort of linear and straightforward.
Yeah, it's very vertical. Like, it almost definitely you're going to start at the bottom and make your way to the top, right?
That's what it looks like. It definitely looks like you're going to just start at the bottom and then take roadways all the way to the very top.
Drake is very into this game, I heard.
Oh, is he? I've heard nothing about that. But gyms are back, which they were gone for a while. I don't remember how long. I know they weren't around in Sun and Moon, but
I didn't know that.
They're back, and so that's kind of cool. I think this is like fine for a first sort of official like main series Pokemon game on Switch, but I think people wanted, maybe I'm just projecting what I wanted, but I wanted this to be like the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon games, where it was just like completely open world. I think that's what a lot of people are
expecting.
Yeah, completely open world. You can tackle the gyms in any order you want, and you can go anywhere you want when you want.
It's more third person.
Yeah, more third person. You have like camera control, and to me this looks essentially just like an HD version of the DS titles, which I guess is maybe the safe route, but
I mean, yeah, who's to say what's down the line? But yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I would characterize this, if I had to say one word, it would be safe.
Yeah, and I think we were speculating on the podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago about what the announcement was going to entail, and we were like, hopefully the nice things that they did with Let's Go will stick around, like being able to see Pokemon in the overworld instead of just having random encounters while you're walking through grass. The trailer definitely shot that down. You're definitely just going to walk through grass and have random encounters again.
But you're not going to have to throw Pokeballs like Pokemon Go, which is nice.
Yeah, that's nice. The other thing we wanted from Let's Go is like just having access to the full inventory, like your box of Pokemon at all times. So you can sort of swap out your starters on the fly rather than having to go back to like one of those computer terminals or whatever. And who knows about that? There's no telling what that's going to be. But
I heard a rumor. People were speculating that there's going to be a new form for Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
Because they always add like a crazy thing. And this one is going to be an armored form of Pokemon that they can level up to or use in certain situations. Armored evolution.
Yeah, that's what it was called. Armored evolutions. That's just a rumor so far, so that's not like confirmed that that's a real thing, but it would make sense. If only because of the whole like sword and shield thingy.
Yeah, they look like knights basically.
Yeah, they look like knights, so it's sort of tying into like, I mean, you know, the UK was not the only place that had like armored knights or whatever, but you know, it's sort of, when you think of that, you think of old England or whatever. So
for sure, the Crusades.
The Crusades, yes. So I mean, that would be cool. They do something interesting to try to make it so that battles, especially later on in the game, become more interesting. They're not just sort of the same thing over and over again. And there was like mega evolutions, and then there was what were they? Z moves in the Sun and Moon games. So I don't know. It'd be cool to see how they add on to that. Did they say when this is coming out?
No, I don't think so. But I'm sure we'll know by E3.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be like the main thing they talk about at E3.
Yeah, for sure. This is one of their big releases for the year, so they'll definitely have more on it.
Maybe their tentpole will be Animal Crossing. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, they didn't say anything about Animal Crossing last time, right? The like last direct. So maybe they're just like building it up and saving it. Of course, they also have what is that, Fire Emblem to talk about. So
that's true. I heard. Oh man, I don't remember who tweeted this. Somebody tweeted it. You follow a lot of people I follow, so I think it was somebody who retweeted it. So you probably saw this as well. But somebody was talking about they saw like a demo that was like crazy to them. It was like seeing what was the reference they used? it was like seeing Master Chief on a PlayStation console. And so everyone was like, what does this mean? And somebody was saying, like, wouldn't it be great if Rare Replay came to Switch, since like Xbox is kind of sharing stuff with Switch, so you could have like Banjo-Kazooie and like Perfect Dark and stuff on Switch.
That would be great, because like for a long time we wanted them to do
more Rare stuff, because also I think there's a new Time Splitters in the works.
Oh, that's right.
That was Rare, right?
Yeah, I heard. Well, no, that was Free Radical.
Oh, you're right.
But yeah, no, for sure, because I think there more speculation for, or like what people want from like launch titles for the next Xbox generation is like a new Perfect Dark. Like that would be a good.
How great would that be?
That would be like a good franchise to return to with the new console generation. So yeah, if they could
Perfect
do that.
Dark Zero was a launch title for the 360, wasn't it? No, for...
Yeah, I think you're right.
Was it 360?
I think you're right, yeah. I never played it, but...
No, I only played the one on N64, but...
Speaking, yeah, and are they going to do a classic console for N64, or are they just going to do like virtual console?
It's been a little bit of time since we've heard about a classic console.
It has been some time. Do you think they'll actually do one, or will they just do like release it as part of that Switch like Nintendo Online thing?
I don't know, because like the next one would be N64. I feel like they would wait till closer to Christmas, because I feel like the SNESs and the NESs were like hot things to buy for.
They definitely were,
like, stocking stuffers.
Yeah.
But should we move on to playing and watching?
We should, because I'm very excited this week to get into this.
It was my spring break last week, and so I just did a ton of stuff I've been putting on the back burner, including some new stuff. So we'll talk about the new stuff first. Baba Is You. Have you heard of that, Zach?
I have not.
Baba Is You. I don't remember where I first saw a trailer for it. Somebody who tweeted about it, I think it was like Ben Hansen from Game Informer, was like, this is the craziest puzzle game. And so I looked at a trailer for it, and I was like, this is insane. So I bought it on Switch. And man, it is a very inventive puzzle game that really makes you think. And I think it's structured somewhat weirdly, because you go to different like parts of the world basically, and there's like different levels. Like you start out and you're in the fields, and then you can go to like a lake, and there's like ruins and like a fallish type area. And each world has like 10 or 11 or like a different range of levels. And I think those levels stack in difficulty independent of the other places. So like I wanted to complete all of the second world, but I ended up not being able to, because it gets really difficult. Or maybe I'm just an idiot. But you need to, if you start playing it, you need to be able to walk away from a world, because you're always opening up new worlds. And I think what you need to do is just like chip away at each world little by little, and then eventually you'll gain the knowledge you need. But it is a difficult game, but it's very rewarding.
I think I remember seeing Game Informer do like a new gameplay today on this game, because I vaguely recall it. I'm looking at the Steam page for it. And yeah, it looks like a crazy puzzle game where there are like words on the screen.
It's almost like a programming game a little bit, because what it is like in every level you're dropped in, Baba is like this like little white four-legged thing. And you play a lot of times you play as it. And so there are these little code phrases on every screen. And one of them is always like, you is Baba, or Baba is you. And another one will be like, flag is win. But each of these is a block you can move around. So maybe the key to the puzzle is moving it so like rock is win. And then you just have to touch the rock. Or maybe you need to make rock Baba. So now you are rock, and now you're moving the rock around, and you can move Baba around, and like it gets very, very complicated very quickly, but it's very satisfying. The music is really great, and you can spend like 30 minutes on one puzzle and just like be looking at basically just like 5 words, and you can't figure it out. And when you figure it out, it's very satisfying, but you also feel very dumb.
Yeah, this does seem like a really interesting design for a game. Like super simple, but like you can make super complicated puzzles to them.
Exactly.
So.
It almost reminds me a little bit of Braid, just because there's like a mechanic where you press a button and you can go back in time, but it's just to like fix mistakes. But Braid was also like a simple mechanic that got very complicated, especially in like the second world where whenever you moved, everything moved. But this has been a really fun, since it's on Switch, I can just pick it up and chip away at it for like 15 minutes at a time. But I highly recommend it.
Yeah, this would be perfect on Switch because this is the type of like puzzle game that you can play on like a phone or something where you just pick it up and have like a sort of a short play session with it and then you just put it away again. So
it's so good. Another game that I played, I don't know if I told this story on the podcast before, but when Factorio came out, me and my two friends who used to play like Tekkit together and like Minecraft bought Factorio and then like automatically started playing it. And we played for 7 hours the first time we played it, like nonstop, just because maybe it was like 6.5 hours, but it was intense because it's just, it's like building Legos together almost. You just like get obsessed with it and you're all building towards the same goal. Satisfactory is a game available on the Epic Store in early access now that we all got into the beta for, or the alpha rather. And I downloaded it last Friday, and it's like basically a first-person Factorio. Factorio is sort of like top-down, and this is I don't know what engine. Oh, it's probably Unity, but yeah, it's like a first-person Factorio where you're basically mining and building assembly lines and creating like a big space elevator and doing crazy stuff. And it's very, very satisfying to play with like two other people where you're all working towards the same goal. You're all like streamlining conveyor belts and making everything like come to a central place and like smelting things. And it's very similar to the like playing Factorio back in the day. And just like Factorio, we loaded up the alpha for Satisfactory. We played for like 5 hours straight just because it was so great. And the early release came out on Unity, and I'm going to buy it probably after we stop recording this. I think it's $30 right now, but they've unlocked the other research tiers, and there's a ton more to do now. It's super fun to play with somebody else if you just want to like a chill game to talk and streamline and make things efficient. I highly recommend.
Yeah, this seems like a perfect podcast game where you just listen to podcasts the whole time and just sort of
you can just listen to a podcast and like streamline like, if I put the smelters like next to the iron, then I can just like straight up bring bars directly to me. And I don't know, it's great.
So is the
very good.
The idea of this that you're making these things that will give you resources that you can then use to make more stuff that will allow you to make more resources and it's just sort of this ever building thing like
exactly.
that?
Yeah, like you drop down onto a planet. I think the conceit is that you work for some corporation and you're like almost terraforming, but not really because there's already like plant life and stuff. But you drop down. First, you need to get like iron and copper so you can like scan and see where there's like an iron deposit. And then you mine the iron until you have enough to build your base. And then you start needing iron plates. Well, iron plates mean you need to like create a smelter. And so you can create like an auto miner with a conveyor belt that automatically goes into a smelter. And then a conveyor belt can go out of that and go into like a machine that builds into something else. Now that you have iron plates, maybe like 2 iron plates and 1 copper wire can create this thing. So you need to create a thing where 2 conveyor belts can go into it and 1 goes out to it into that machine and so on and so forth, and can get super complicated, but it's also like super fun.
Yeah, we should do a video on it at some point because it looks interesting to me, but I haven't played the game that sort of inspired this, so
I would love to play it with you because it would be super fun to play together.
What platform do you have this on?
Epic Games Store.
Is it exclusive to Epic?
Exclusively on Epic Games,
okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Maybe we'll look into that at some point because it seems kind of cool to me. So, but
finally,
this is the thing I'm more interested in.
I feel like when I was still living in Cedar Rapids, you were like, you have to start watching The Expanse. And I knew it was good. And I think I watched like the first 5 episodes and then I moved and stuff got crazy. But it was my spring break, so I was like, I'm just going to do it. I realized that a thing that was blocking me from doing it was that it's on Amazon Prime, and you can't Chromecast Amazon Prime. Yeah. And all I have is Chromecast, but I also have PS4. And I realized I could download Amazon Prime on my PS4, so I just sat upstairs and I watched 3 seasons. I think I started at episode 6 of the first season, and in under 48 hours, I had watched all three seasons of it, and it was great. I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah, I think you'd like sent me a snap at like 5 a.m, and I woke up and I was like, wait, did he get up like super early? And then I checked it and I was like, oh no, he pulled an all-nighter on this. So
yeah, like you just keep watching because Amazon Prime doesn't do that thing that Netflix does where it's like, hey, are you still there?
Yeah.
It just keeps going. And so I would just keep watching, and all of a sudden it would be light outside, and I'd be like, oh my God, I guess I should stop for a while. But I like couldn't fall asleep. I just had to keep watching it because you said it. They do that thing where at the end of every episode something crazy happens, so you want to see what happens.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that, like, I mean, the writing's really good throughout the entire thing,
so good.
But it also, like, will get to a point where just something crazy happens and you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to keep watching to see how, like, what happens next because something insane just happened and I need to know.
Especially at the end of season 3, like, season 4 is going to be crazy, I assume, because the thing that happens at the end of season 3 is like, oh my God.
We should definitely do just maybe a separate episode where we just recap the first 3 seasons and talk about it.
Because you've also started reading the first book, right?
I completed listening to the audiobook for the first book, and I used a gift card that I got for my birthday to get the second book in the series on audiobook. I've been listening to them on my commute to and from class. So I'm going to start listening to that when I start going back to school again. But yeah, so far, the first book, like the show sticks pretty true to the book for the first one. And there's like a few minor things that are changed. And I think the changes that they did make, at least in terms of those like smaller changes, are better, like for the better in terms of the show. Just because like, I don't want to get into spoilers yet, so I'll save that for later.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should save that for our like thing where we can, because I really want to talk about the ending of season 3, because I have like, there's some things I want to reference that I think will be good.
But it's so good, and I've been dying for so long for you to watch the show so that we could talk about it, because like we both really love sci-fi stuff, and this is
probably... this might be the best sci-fi show. It's better than Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, for sure. I liked Battlestar Galactica, but this show is definitely...
It blows it out of the water.
Yeah, far and away better than that show. It's probably maybe even the best show on TV right now. I don't think that's hyperbole to say either.
Zach. That's sacrilege for you.
Well, I do like Game of Thrones.
You love Game of Thrones.
But the thing is, they kind of stumbled in that last season a little bit. There was at least an episode or two in there where, like, the first maybe 2 or 3 episodes of the last season were great. And then it, like, this is sort of a symptom of the writers trying to wrap up that show because it's been going for so long and they all want to move on. But also, they've sort of gone beyond the source material. Like George R.R. Martin's books, he's not done with that series yet, and the film has caught up to him, and they're just moving on without him. So they have his notes, but they're kind of winging it from here on out. And so they hit like an episode or 2 right there in the middle of that last season that were just like, they were just not good, and they didn't feel true to like the characters, like what they would actually do given those situations, or like the logical thing. And there were also like a lot of like silly little mistakes that are just like, they're like logical leaps. Like, why would this happen? Or why would that happen? Or why would this person be there? Or like, but also like leaps in, time. Whereas like in previous seasons, if a character was traveling from point A to point B, that would take a long time, and they would draw that out. And, in like the space of one episode, often within the space of several minutes within that episode, characters are just like traveling these vast distances, like back and forth, like it's nothing. And so everything is just like, you can tell it feels a little bit more rushed. So the show is great. I like the characters. I'm very excited about the new season, but I hope it's better than some of the last season.
Have they said anything? Like, they're currently filming Expanse season 4, right?
They are. In fact, I think I've seen like some photos that some of the cast have posted on Twitter.
Yeah, I watched like a little a very short, like minute and a half long doc about season 4, basically where they were saying like, "Thank you for picking us up, Amazon. We're shooting it now," and there are glimpses of things, but I don't know that they haven't talked about a release date, have they? Have they even said like they're shooting for 2019 or what?
I want to say that they have said that it's going to come out this year, but I don't know when.
There are like 10 or 11 books, right?
I don't know if there's that many.
There are 8.
Yeah,
and
8 of them.
There's a 9th as yet unnamed final novel. So there could potentially be 9 seasons of this.
Yeah, well, they've definitely got plenty of material, because I think the first book even went into season 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it wasn't like nice and neat. They did the entirety of the first season within the entirety of the first book. Some of that ended up going into the second season. And yeah, so they have a book, and the newest or the latest book in the series is coming out next week, actually. So,
what?
Yeah, so like the latest book isn't even out yet.
Oh my god, it is.
Coming out next week, which is very exciting, I guess. I'm not caught up enough to want to read that yet, but yeah, and then maybe they have another one after that. Did they know how many books they're doing?
It says, the Wikipedia says 9, like it goes, the 8th one is called Tiamat's Wrath, and then it says 9, as yet unnamed final novel.
So they've got at least one more. They've got plenty of time, though.
How long do people live in The Expanse? Do they ever talk about human lifespan in that era?
I don't know. They might. I don't remember if that comes up in the show or not. I don't remember it happening in the book at all. But yeah, they could potentially be making this show for years and years and years based on the amount of material that's there.
That.
And yeah, I'm totally down for that to happen. Like Amazon Prime, like not a sponsor, hashtag not a sponsor, but like they've got some heavy hitters coming up between like The Expanse season 4. They've got a Lord of the Rings show they're working on. And
they have a Ringworld show.
Yeah, I was going to say, they got Ringworld and they've got
Snow Crash
that they're working on, like,
which we haven't seen anything about.
That's crazy exciting to me, what they have coming up. And I didn't buy The Expanse on Amazon. I bought it on Google, and so that's how I've been watching it. I still kind of hope that they make it available to buy on Google Play, just because I want to have it all in one place, but
yeah.
But I mean, I'll probably just watch it on Amazon because that's where it is. But anyway, I like when you said that you started watching it, I was very excited. I was like, yes, finally. And then for a minute there, I was excited because I was like, I'm gonna start rewatching it too, and then we'll just like watch it at the same time and get to the end of it, and it'll be very exciting. And then like the next morning, you were like, I'm on like season 2, episode 9, and I just pulled an all-nighter. I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to keep up with that pace, but that's cool.
Did you know there's a role-playing game for The Expanse?
Is there really? No, I did not know that.
It came out in July 2018.
That's cool.
That is very interesting.
Also, because they're now with Amazon and they have like a bigger budget, and they don't have to worry about language and stuff like that you would have to worry about on like network television. The show is going to be crazy now. They're just free to do whatever. So
that's true, but also like I feel like especially in season 2, they said the F word a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I think I do think I remember seeing some on Sci-Fi and they just sort of bleeped it, I guess. But the cast and crew, they've talked about it a lot, especially when like the show was being canceled and they were trying to get Amazon to pick them up. And Avasarala, like apparently in the books, she swears like a sailor kind of, and she's like a very tough person. So they kind of had to rein her in for the sake of it airing on Sci-Fi. And
not anymore. She's barely in season 3.
Yeah, that's true. But they said that they're going to she's going to be free for season 4. So favorite characters?
I got to say, I like Holden, man. I love someone who cannot be beat.
Yeah, I got to say, this is a thing that this show does a lot that I like, is that it does a thing where character, like you'll start out with one character or group of characters, and then it'll like sort of cut to a parallel storyline, and you'll follow some other characters for a while, and it just kind of jumps back and forth, and then just over time they like converge on the same part.
I love that.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing because they're going to be eventually on screen together at the same time and grouped up, and it will be awesome. And it does that a lot with a lot of different sets of characters. Like this happens a lot in Game of Thrones as well, which is another reason why I like Game of Thrones. But yeah, I love it in The Expanse when I don't even know if I want to say when such and such a character meets such and such a character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but there's like a single shot in the final like 10 seconds of the third season where the Marine from Mars is basically, it's shown that she's joining the crew, the main crew. It's like, that's awesome. She's not gonna, because it took her so long to get back to them in season 3, and now she's gonna be there from the start. She's another favorite character of mine because I love her armor.
Yeah, she's a great character, and I do like the fact that she's just like her and the Belter engineer. Like she
Amos?
went away for a while, but now
Naomi?
Yeah, she's back as well. So like I like that the crew is officially like, here we are, we're together now. We're a family. We're going to stick together. So it's cool that they all are now back together.
The
again.
science also is something I really like. That's the reason I really liked Stargate, as crazy as that sounds. Like, they made rules and they stuck to those rules. And this, even more so, a thing that really struck me, and it's like a dumb little thing, but when all these ships were converging on, I think it was like a moon in the second season, it cut to a shot of them converging on it, and they were all flipped around because they were all like decelerating towards the planet. And a dumber show would have just shown those ships just like with their engines facing away from the planet, going straight towards the planet. But this show is so smart because you would have to decelerate when you're getting closer and closer. And I love little touches like that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like a lot about this series, is that it's kind of hard sci-fi where there are elements of like sort of sci-fi, fantasy, whatever, but like for the most part the show is very strict about keeping things scientific, and so there is like sort of a scientific answer to everything, and the show does a good job of trying to explain that, so it doesn't feel like they're stretching the rules, and so you kind of always understand how things work, and that's all very interesting to me, the way they do a good job of like explaining the science behind how something works without making it, one, feel boring, as you might expect that something like that would, but also keeping it true to what real science would dictate.
I have a ton more things we could talk about. We should probably wrap it up and just do
I was going to say, we could go
thing.
for another hour talking about The Expanse, so maybe we should wrap it up and return to this some other time. If you're interested in that conversation or just want to hear our next podcast, you can go ahead and follow us on YouTube, and it'll go up there. But also we're on iTunes and Google Play and Pocket Cast, or pretty much wherever else you get podcasts. And leave us a rating on there if you enjoy the show. And follow us on Twitter at Starside Cafe. Check out our website at starsidecafe.com. And yeah, you can follow us on Instagram. I don't post a lot there, but you can follow us there as well. And send us an email at starsidecafe@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of any of the stuff we talked about, Stadia or The Expanse or Pokemon or Destiny. And see you on the next episode.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.